Welcome everyone to 7 social media tips to protect your hotel's digital facade in 2018. So as Kirsty said, I'm Amber Hoffman from WIT Media. And in less than an hour of this webinar, we're going to share some of our hotel social media marketing tips and tricks. Now, obviously, some of these can apply to more than just hotels, but we tend to specialize in hotel and hospitality brands, so that's where most of our experience lies. So our first goal is to provide some of our tips on how you can improve your hotel social media to increase bookings and revenue, and how to protect your brand. And this is also going to include some of the important changes that we've seen in social media in the last couple months, including recent changes to the Facebook newsfeed. Now, some of these tips you might already know, and for others, they may be entirely new. Frankly, it's entirely impossible to offer all new tips to every one of you, but I'm confident you will learn actionable steps that you can use to help your travel brand starting today. So I just want to make sure the PowerPoint is moving. Okay, hopefully that's it. So this is us, and I just wanted to share a little bit about us. I'm Amber, originally of the culinary and luxury travel blog With Husband in Tow. Together, Eric, who is the husband, and I have traveled the world working to promote hotel properties, restaurants, and travel brands. Our niche is food, wine, and luxury travel, and there are days where I think we've seen it all. We've stayed in everything from budget hostels to the Ritz-Carlton to everywhere in between. We've dined on street food and at some of the top restaurants in the world. Together, we've traveled to over 70 countries and have logged so many nights in hotels we've entirely lost track. And while traveling, we became frustrated with how many of the hotel and travel brands we partnered with, both big and small, failed to take advantage of the investment they were making in working with us as influencers. We quickly realized they needed help in realizing the enormous benefits of social media, not just from working with influencers, but even at a more basic level. We saw and continue to see even some of the largest hotel brands making some elementary errors in their social strategy, or it became clear that they didn't even have a strategy at all. So we created WIT Media to provide actionable steps to help hotel brands so that they can increase bookings and revenue through their social media channels. We are social media consultants and trainers who help hospitality brands transform their social media channels to drive an increase in bookings and sales. Over the last few years, we've worked with hotel managers and staff to help them improve their social channels and to reach their marketing goals. We've worked on consulting contracts and have provided in-person social media training for hotel management teams at some of the largest hotels in the world. But first, before we get into our tips and tricks, I want to share a story to talk about why Eric and I do what we do. We've seen many hotel brands struggle with communicating their brand messaging on social. And it's frustrating to see the lack of understanding of even some of the basic social media applications. Or hotels and brands assume they're receiving sufficient support from their corporate brand or from a digital agency, and that it's sufficient to get the job done. But in fact, that might not be enough. Because we've been on the receiving end, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well, of so much bad social media customer service that we almost felt compelled to right the wrongs in the industry. And we've seen many hotels lose business because of their lack of attention or their lack of knowledge to social media. So I want to start with a story. Last summer, we contacted a local hotel where we live in Girona, Spain, because they had just opened a rooftop bar. I couldn't find any information on their website or Facebook page about their hours and wanted to take Eric there for his birthday. I sent them a Facebook message in the morning to find out their hours. Now granted, it was a Saturday, but hotels are in a 24/7 business. Not only did I not hear back that day, but we ended up just walking over to the hotel to ask our question at the front desk, basically because I still don't trust my Spanish skills over the phone. I was sort of annoyed. So we did not go to the rooftop bar that night for a birthday cocktail, and instead we celebrated at a nearby competitor bar. I finally received a response the following Friday, 6 days later. They lost revenue that day, and we haven't been back to check out the bar either since then. meaning they've lost future revenue as well. And this is why we do what we do. We don't want you to make the same mistakes. Instead, we want to help you understand how to promote your offerings and provide great service on social media to capture those dollars and not send them to a competitor down the street. So the title of this webinar is 7 Social Media Tips to Protect Your Hotel's Digital Facade. So first, I want to talk about identifying what is your digital facade and talk about why it is so important. So obviously, a hotel's physical facade is important. When guests arrive at the hotel, it's the first thing they see at the entrance. And if it's not impeccable, then guests will feel uneasy about the choice they made. They may feel unsafe or that they've chosen poorly if something's wrong. So how much time and money does the average hotel spend on making sure the entrance to the hotel shines? Probably quite a bit, and that's understandable. It's the first thing people see, and you want it to be perfect. But imagine you're a hotel GM or marketing manager, and you arrive at your hotel in the morning. What would you do if you found someone had tagged your hotel with graffiti overnight? You'd probably get it fixed right away. What if a window was broken, a door broken? You would do everything you could to fix that issue that day because, after all, your hotel's facade is the first thing that guests see. Or is it? Is it really the first thing people see? Is the front entrance to the hotel the first impression that people have of your property? Really, the first image people have about your property is your digital facade. This is the image guests or potential guests see even before they step foot into the lobby. And that is why your digital facade is so important. Your digital facade includes your website, your blog if you have one, and yes, very importantly, your social media, all of your channels, whether you are active on them or not. So it's just as important to make your digital facade shine as your hotel's physical facade because it's the very first image people have of your property. It affects whether people will even book your hotel versus a competitor's down the road. It's worth the time and the investment to do it right and to put your best step forward. As much as your physical facade is important, your digital facade is just as important because if your website turns people off or your customer service on social isn't efficient, chances are people won't even make it to the property to experience the feeling of walking through the front door. But now it's time to get to the business of our tips of what kind of ways that you can actually do to improve and protect your digital facade. So this is going to be starting to get down more into the nitty-gritty, the parts of your digital facade that many hotels don't invest as much time in. A lot of them are focused on Instagram as their primary or secondary social channel after Facebook. But many brands might not realize why they are so focused on Instagram and how to protect and promote their brand properly on that channel. So when it comes to Facebook, accuracy and responsiveness is the most important way to improve your digital facade, and we'll get to that. But Instagram is an inspirational platform. It's difficult, if not downright impossible, to directly sell on Instagram. It's just not the purpose of the channel. It's to inspire people, to educate, and to entertain. And so here, it's important to create a visually stunning Instagram feed. During 2017, Instagram users posted over 95 million photos per day. I'll let that number sink in. That means that your image or your video needs to compete with over 95 million other images a day. And your image is also now competing against video, stories, Instagram Live, all Instagram avenues you didn't need to compete with before. And changes with the algorithm over the last year or so with Instagram is making it even more difficult for your followers to see your photos. A lot goes into winning that competition to make sure that people see your images, particularly in the competitive travel and food categories. And one way to do this is to ensure you have a visually stunning feed. A visually stunning feed is one that is curated, that is well thought out, that is not a depository for every bit of marketing collateral your hotel puts out into the world. It is a feed that, when viewed as a whole, is, well, inspirational. It makes people want to follow you, to book with you, to stay with you. So let's look at this example from a travel company account. Up until their most recent post, this was a visually stunning feed. But it's like one of those childhood Sesame Street style games, which asks which one of these things doesn't belong. And can you see which one doesn't belong? They essentially shared a text, what I call a PDF style image, and it sort of destroyed the entire feed. Sure, they may have wanted to get the word out about this rally, but is this the best way to do it on Instagram? Could they have done it with images or a video or even an Instagram story? This is my biggest pet peeve of Instagram. Please, please don't share every PDF that your marketing department has created onto your Instagram page. It's just not the place for it. Not only does it destroy the look of your feed, but it seems, like, I hate to say it, but a little lazy. Is that PDF image, if that's shared on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, posted all over your hotel, it shows that you're not concerned about the channel itself and how native content looks on each channel. Instead, you want to use your Instagram feed to share inspiring photos of your property and your destination. Now, this is an example of a visually stunning feed. The photos all relate to a theme, and when they include text on the image, like they do on the right here, it's purposeful. It's part of the image. It's not a marketing PDF, and it's so much more appealing. So our number one rule for Instagram: no PDF style images loaded with detail and text. Tell a story. Be inspirational. I can't stress this enough. And that is our first tip for the day to make your Instagram feed visually stunning. So let's talk about my next, well, pet peeve about Instagram: how to ensure your Instagram feed looks professional and remains visually stunning. This is our second tip on how to protect your digital facade. Part of creating a visually stunning feed and protecting your digital facade on Instagram is by including no links in your captions, taglines, or comments. There really is no exception to this rule. Instagram just doesn't recognize links. Followers can't click on the link. They can't even copy the link. If it's a bit.ly or otherwise shortened link, it's even harder for someone to write down the link in order to type it into an open web browser. There are three main places you can add a link: in your profile, or in an Instagram ad, which allows you to add a direct link to a booking promotion, let's say, or you can even add a link now to an Instagram story. Other than that, no links. And the same rule applies to email addresses. Please don't add your brand's email address into a tagline or comment, or your events or wedding coordinator's email address either. In fact, when you add the @ symbol into a comment to add the email address, Instagram recognizes anything that comes after the @ symbol as another Instagram account, and in fact tries to tag that account. For example, if I wrote in an Instagram comment to contact me by emailing me at amber@withhusbandintow.com, Instagram will tag @withhusbandintow. It's just a mess. Instead, add your email into the Contact Us section of your profile, and in the comment, suggest people email you there. Now, each of these tips so far goes to how functional and how visual your Instagram feed is. And it's the perfect way to protect your brand's digital facade on Instagram, to make it look professional. And more than our other ways of how to protect your digital facade, I feel I sound a little bit more strict on these last two rules, offering more don't tips rather than do tips. but they're just so important. And now we'll move on to digital facade tip 3. Now, there are so many more tips I would love to be sharing, but trying to fit this all in less than an hour is just not enough time. And I want to ensure we offer tips on each of the 3 main channels. So it's time to move on to Facebook, the bread and butter of the travel social media world. Now, often because Facebook has been around and established for so long, many hotels make it almost set it and forget it. But there's a lot that every brand can do to improve their Facebook page for each and every brand. This is how you can put your best step forward and improve your digital facade on Facebook. First, it starts with the About page. It's important to ensure your Facebook About page is accurate and up to date. This is particularly important because Facebook often changes what it includes on a Facebook page. And there's a lot going on that you might not even know is there. Making sure your About page and settings are accurate is super important. This is the first place that guests or potential guests will check for your company information. And if your address or contact information is not accurate, if the hours of your your F&B outlets are incorrect, like we had with the issue with that hotel in Girona, you could be losing business, either from bookings or F&B sales. So by ensuring the accuracy of all of this information, you are almost guaranteed to increase revenue simply through providing correct information. And don't assume that your About page is accurate. Chances are when you review your About page after this webinar, there will be at least one change or edit that needs to be made. Also, within your About page, there are loads of opportunities to try to get your story out to potential followers. Also, this is one of the most important parts of your Facebook page because it's where people who are looking for information about your brand will first land. So what kind of information can you include? So this is my With Husband in Tow travel blog page, and so it might look a little different from your brand because of the category being blogger. So where it says edit personal interests, it might have something different for your brand depending on whether you have a physical location. But it's still helpful to look at this version as an idea. So let's walk through some of these sections. First is the category. Is your category accurate? It should be a hotel or a variation of that. I'm often amazed at how many hotel Facebook pages that I review say restaurant or spa, so just make sure it's accurate. Next, take a look at your story on the right. This can and should be updated regularly. It's a way for you to be creative and use it as an opportunity to show off your brand's personality. You can add a link as well. And in the last few months, this screenshot is not entirely up to date, but over the last few months, Facebook started offering a new way to tell your story. You can actually add photos and videos and all sorts of stuff. So it could be a lot more in-depth than what I have here. So check out you can also check out the WIT Media Facebook page and check out our story that we included there as well. It gives you a little bit more of some information on how you can update that. So next on the list of information that you can include in your About page, there is an About section. And on your page, you will see a general information section. Around where here it says personal information, that's where you'll see general information. And you want to think strategically about what information you want to include in each section. For example, your story might include your marketing positioning. Your About section might include your history or some key features of the property. Then general information could include a list of your F&B outlets and hours, number of rooms, etc. This should be the more, boring but necessary information than what your story would include. You also want to ensure not only that your address is accurate, but your map is accurate. I've actually seen a beach resort with the quote, correct address, but the map showed the hotel on the airport runway. If it's inaccurate, you might be able to fix it yourself, or you might need to open a help ticket with Facebook. Also, ensure that your website link is correct, phone number, email address, contact, everything. Here, it's important to choose an email address that is actively monitored 7 days a week for customer service purposes. And double check that the link actually works. A lot of times the link is old and broken. Again, some of this seems obvious, but it's necessary to review and protect your digital facade. I would estimate that 9 out of 10 travel brands that we audit have correct information or website links or out-of-date data. So definitely take the time to check. Because many people set up their Facebook page when they open the account or when their hotel opens, and they sort of set it and forget it. But it's important to review your About section on a regular basis and to update your descriptions and cover photo regularly. Not only is it important to keep this information up to date, but it's also a great way to make sure your recent marketing positions are heard. Simply ensuring your information is accurate is a great and even simple way to increase your revenue through Facebook by making it as easy as possible for people to know exactly what you are offering. And don't assume that each section of the About page that we talked about is 100% accurate. Please double check. I know I sound like a broken record here, but it is really important. So as Kirsty said, our last webinar topic with Trouble Massive was on customer service. And Eric and I are both passionate about hotels' social media customer service. In fact, we have an online course entirely dedicated to social customer service and how to protect your brand in times of crisis. But here, we're just going to offer one of our down and dirty social customer service tips, and it relates to Facebook reviews. First, a note about Facebook reviews and TripAdvisor reviews. Oftentimes, because, well, there's only 24 hours in a day, TripAdvisor reviews end up taking precedence over Facebook reviews for many brands. In fact, many times when we talk with hotels or hospitality brands, the GMs don't even know that Facebook has reviews. Well, they do, and they're public, and Facebook will do everything in its power to ensure people peruse Facebook reviews before booking. The trend with Facebook is that as part of their business model, they're trying to take everything you do elsewhere online and bring it into their platform. I'm not sure if you guys saw the news today, but Facebook is now going to be a dating site as well. This is their business model. So reviews were modeled after TripAdvisor, and now Facebook offers direct booking options similar to Booking.com and other booking platforms. Well, this is a long way of saying Facebook reviews are there, and they're public, and they're important. The question is, if they're important, how should you respond to them? Well, we have a golden rule for Facebook reviews. And our opinion, the same rule applies to TripAdvisor. Every single review needs to be responded to, not just with a like, but with an actual comment. And this is true even for 5-star reviews. If you're focused on TripAdvisor reviews, then your best course of action here is to treat Facebook reviews like you would a TripAdvisor review. Of course, you need to respond to negative reviews, but there are opportunities to be had in the positive or neutral reviews as well. And we believe in a 100% response rate for a couple of reasons. First, one of the main reasons why you want a 100% response rate on Facebook is to let other potential customers know that you're listening. We noticed this years ago when reviewing TripAdvisor reviews. When we saw a general manager or an owner responding to every single TripAdvisor review, we were way more likely to book that property because it shows the GM is listening. And for us, this was more important than a handful of negative reviews. The responsiveness of the GM offset the negative reviews. Even if you resolve a negative complaint offline via messenger or email, be sure to also respond to the original review to let other potential guests know that you resolved the issue. And by closely monitoring your Facebook reviews and by demonstrating you are listening to both the good and the bad, and resolving the issues raised by the bad, you are doing your utmost to protect your digital facade on Facebook. So before we go on to the announcement from a couple months ago about the Facebook newsfeed, I want to talk about Twitter. One thing we've heard repeatedly over the years from many hotels and travel brands, particularly in Asia, but even in some European countries, they say, Twitter isn't big in my country, so we're not going to focus on it. But I want to share one story to help you understand that when it comes to protecting your digital facade, you might not have a choice when it comes to Twitter. Twitter is still kicking around, and the largest number of Twitter users comes from the US, followed by India and Indonesia, and those numbers are growing. And the number of tweets sent each day is actually increasing. So Twitter is on the rise. And with the recent announcement several months ago that they're offering tweets with 280 characters instead of 140 characters, this might mean that more people start to use Twitter, but we'll have to see. So for the skeptics out there, I do want to talk about why Twitter is so important to hospitality brands. When it comes to social customer service, it's important to answer the phone. We spend a lot of time talking about this important concept in our online social media for customer service course. But here, let's equate your Twitter account to your hotel's front desk telephone. Just like you wouldn't let your front desk phone ring without answering it, it's important to answer the phone on social customer service. And Twitter is one of the primary places where guests or potential guests will reach out to you, whether you're paying attention or not. So I want to share another story. A city center hotel in Asia with a large American expat population received a Twitter direct message from an American expat who hosts an annual holiday dinner for his family and friends, generally with about 25 to 30 people. In the direct message, the American said that he's been hosting his annual holiday dinner for the past several years at a competitor's hotel across town. But he wasn't thrilled with their holiday offerings anymore and wanted to switch to another hotel. His DM questioned what options were available, pricing, timing, all the questions a property would get about a potential reservation. The problem was, this hotel wasn't prepared to answer the phone. It wasn't until we went behind the scenes to audit them that we saw the direct message, at least a month late. Not only did they miss out on a possible holiday dinner reservation for upwards of 30 people, but they also missed out on that American booking their holiday dinner year after year, as was his tradition. This is what happens when you drop the ball on Twitter. Even if you are not actively using Twitter to promote your services, you still need to be there to answer the phone and to protect your reputation. And a really big part of protecting your digital facade, particularly on Twitter, is to be monitoring it sufficiently to know when guests or potential guests are reaching out for help or are talking about you without you otherwise knowing. It's about protecting your brand on Twitter, and that means protecting your digital facade. So let's move on to the recent Facebook announcement. So this was probably about 2 months ago, and the social media marketing world at that time was all abuzz about Mark Zuckerberg's post on his personal Facebook profile about upcoming changes to the Facebook newsfeed. Since that time, I've read articles and blog posts and listened to podcasts from experts who are providing their opinion on what this means for publishers as well as businesses who run Facebook pages. So first, let's talk about the announcement. Essentially, Zuckerberg wants to bring Facebook back to its roots, where it was meant to bring friends and family closer together. This personal content will be taking precedence over what Facebook calls, quote, public content. Public content includes posts from businesses, brands, and media. And all of us on this webinar today are considered a business. So Facebook's goal is to use the algorithm to push out more quality content to users. But its definition of quality content is a little different. For a while, Facebook was saying video was number one. That is now no longer the case. What they're saying is it's now about connecting people, active connections, not passive connections. Conversations in comments is the real goal. And it's not just changes to the news feeds, but with all of Facebook's avenue, including pages, groups, and we can presume possibly even Instagram as well. So the question is, what does this mean for your brand? Of course, at this point, still, no one really knows. All of the social media experts are merely offering opinions about what this could mean in the social media marketing world, and I'm here to provide our opinion about what this could mean for your brand. Now, this will be something we address on an ongoing basis with our social media coaching program clients, as well as on our Facebook page, so feel free to look us up there. But here are 2 social media tips that can be taken from this recent announcement to help you continue to protect and promote your digital facade. So what does this mean for your hotel? So I quote from Mark Zuckerberg. As we roll this out, you'll see less public content like posts from businesses, brands, and media. And the public content you see more will be held to the same standard. It should encourage meaningful interactions between people, end quote. We've been saying for years that social media is no longer a free form of marketing for your business. Yes, you need to allocate budget to advertising, and you need to allocate budget and time to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing to build your brand and protect your brand on social. This is more important than ever. To reach an audience on Facebook, it is necessary to advertise. You don't have to spend thousands, but you need to spend something, and you need to know what you are doing to reach the right audience effectively. Organic reach on Facebook could be dead. Harsh words, and it kind of breaks my heart, but there is nothing more true about social media than it changes all the time. So Facebook advertising is more important than ever. So if organic reach is potentially dead, what does this mean? Why even bother? How should you be using your Facebook newsfeed to promote and protect your brand? And our 7th and final social media tip takes us full circle. If Facebook is no longer going to prioritize business content, how can you use Facebook for your business? First, don't give up. Don't abandon your Facebook feed. You still want to focus on creating engaging and interesting content, but quality will be more of a focus over quantity. Maybe one really good post a week will be enough. The important thing here is to make sure that your Facebook page is accurate, that it expresses your brand's authentic voice, that it looks professional, that it matches your brand. It is an extension of your website and the second most important part of your digital facade. Even if your content is not organically reaching the audience you wish it would reach, people will still be visiting your Facebook page and it needs to be professionally managed. But in the end, we are going to need to see how this news all plays out. I know we've seen a decline in our organic reach as well as organic reach for some of our clients. And so it is something that we continue to struggle with. But the most important thing is still trying to create good quality content. So let's do a quick review about how to protect your digital facade in a way that helps to promote your brand and increase bookings and revenue. So we talked about how your digital facade includes your website, your blog if you have one, and all of your social channels, the ones you are managing actively as well as the ones you are not. Yes, this includes all social channels. If you have an account, you need to be monitoring it. And the solution here is not to just close your Twitter account, because people can talk about you even if your account is closed. It's important to be active and be prepared. And these tips that we shared are really just the tip of the iceberg. Hotel social media marketing is like juggling about 1,000 balls at once, and it's changing and evolving every day. We talked about Facebook's recent announcement, but there have been a half dozen or so other really big changes to social channels in the last 3 to 4 months. And I know what some of you might be thinking, particularly for larger brands, they tend to get a lot of help from their corporate brand or PR firm on social media. Maybe some people have farmed out their social media to a digital agency because it's just too much to handle. But that means you might not be aware of what we consider to be the biggest social media mistake hotels and brands make. We've already shared some of our tips on how to protect your digital facade. And a lot of these tips aren't taught by in-house corporate trainers or even focused on by digital agencies. What they don't tell you is that each hotel should be managing their own social media in-house. The biggest mistake hotels make on social is outsourcing to a digital agency that doesn't understand their story or how to tell it. We believe hotels should manage their own social day-to-day, which is probably pretty surprising coming from a social media company, right? After all, we do manage accounts for hotel properties, but our goal is always, well, almost always, to eventually hand off responsibility to the hotel itself. And this is our philosophy for a few reasons. First, you need to tell your hotel or brand story. We've reviewed and audited a lot of hotel social media accounts, both as travelers and as consultants. And the one thing many of them have in common is they're boring. They show photos of their rooms or their views and offer discounts on bookings. And they look exactly like every other hotel social channel out there, other than the occasional unique hotel that just gets social. Those hotels have learned to share what makes them special. What's their history, their location, their staff, their amenities? What makes them unique from their competitors? They've learned to tell their story in a way that connects with their followers. They found their authentic voice and use it in a way to tell their story. And who knows that story better than you? Second, you know your hotel property and your guests best. You know the ins and outs, the people that make it special, and you know your guests. Sure, a PR firm can help you identify your target demographic and where you can find them, but you know the guests who check in and out every day. You understand their needs and their personalities, and that means you can provide them the best social media customer service. This attention to your guest needs, both online and off, in our opinion, cannot be outsourced. Third, you can create the content needed to tell your property's story. There is a definite struggle that all hotel properties face of how to create great content on a regular basis without going broke. Yes, a PR firm or digital agency should definitely be brought in to create a new video for your website, or to create marketing collateral for print campaigns, or when you're launching a new F&B outlet. But your day-to-day social media content should be created by you and your marketing team. It should involve a combination of Instagram stories, Facebook Live, fun videos, and casual images that all tell a less formal story than your website does. This is a really important part of your digital facade. And the typical digital agency can't come in each week to do a Facebook Live or to ensure that you can have more than 50 videos in a year so that you have a steady stream of engaging content that you can use to try to beat the Facebook algorithm. So I want to close by saying that what my life as a travel influencer has taught me about hotel social media marketing is that it's really easy to tell when a hotel is managing their own social accounts. And it's even easier to tell when a hotel is outsourcing, particularly to an agency that has 1,000 hotel clients and tells the same story on every channel they manage. This is just another part of protecting your digital facade. And that's why we wanted to share just a few of our tips on how to protect your digital facade and to promote your travel brand on social. And I will give just a little plug. If you do want to manage all of your accounts in-house, but are struggling on how to make them successful, just shoot us an email at witmedia.co and sign up for our newsletter, because we provide a lot of tips on an ongoing basis about how you can do this yourself. And there is our email. Look, I finished it in 45 minutes. So that's great. But those are our 7 tips for how to protect your digital facade. And I'm happy I was able to, in particular, share some details about the recent Facebook announcement. I know it's been all over the news, and I think a lot of people are worried about it. So we are continuing to monitor it and pay attention to it. And we'll be sharing more on our Facebook page and in our newsletter about that as we see the results of that change. So with that, Kirsty, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Amber. So let's see if anyone in our audience has any questions now. So to ask a question, you just need to raise your hand, which you can do by pressing the participants button on the bottom of your screen and then clicking to raise your hand over on the right there. Then I'll unmute you and you can ask a question. So while you're finding that, I might just ask you a question myself, actually, Amber. I know you kind of mentioned, all the changes that are happening with Facebook. But I mean, obviously, the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal and everything. What's your kind of take on that and people, leaving Facebook? Do you think there's any real concern there, or are people just going to keep on, using Facebook forever?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I have been, following the news on that, and I just don't see that there is a competitor to Facebook. I think for those of us who use it, it's part of our daily lifestyle, and I just don't see it going away. I mean, other competitors have tried to come in, like Google Plus, but have never really succeeded. And it's true that millennials and even whatever the next generation is after that, are tending to turn towards private messaging and WhatsApp and Snapchat. But for the bulk of the people who purchase travel services, most of them are still on Facebook. I know that there was some news last week out of England where there's a big pub company, like a pub brand that owns like 900 pubs in the UK. And they decided to just close all of their social accounts. So that was the corporate page as well as every social media account for all 900 pubs. And they did it for a few reasons. One, in response to Cambridge Analytica. One, in response to a Twitter social media crisis that happened. And so rather than sort of resolving the issue, they just sort of shut down all their accounts. And 3, because they said that part of being at a pub is communicating with other people. And they want people to communicate in person rather than to do so online. I've read the article and some comments that I've heard about it, and that seems a little bit extreme. They're still going to be saying that they have a newsletter and they say they have their website with plenty of information. It'll be curious to see if that backfires for them. With a pub, you're getting a lot of foot traffic and local traffic more so than a hotel or a travel company that offers tours where you can't rely on foot traffic. You have to rely on the internet to market. So I think it's a little bit different, but I think it will be a trend that you see. I think also Elon Musk and Tesla just shut down some of their channels as well. So we're just going to have to see what happens with all of this. I do find it interesting that within a couple weeks of Cambridge Analytica, that Mark Zuckerberg's on TV today announcing that there's a new dating app within Facebook. It seems sort of an interesting direction to go with all of the press that he's gotten, is for people to share more personal information with strangers on Facebook.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I bet he's loving it. I think, obviously right now it's obviously fantastic publicity for those places, closing up their Facebook accounts. But we'll see what it does to them in future.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what information they have on their websites and how closely they're monitoring it. And, whether when people have questions, they're answering the phone through email or, actually a real live phone. They basically said if people have complaints or comments about the pub, they can tell the bartender. And I don't see how that's going to, resolve or, that would just kind of piss off the bartender, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people, are getting pretty used to social media and not having to actually, you know, voice their concerns in person anymore. So it's a hell of a lot easier to do over Facebook and Messenger and stuff than it is to someone's face. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay, it looks like we don't have any more questions. I'm kind of not surprised. It's almost 9 p.m. here in Australia. I'm not sure where everybody else is from, but it could be late for a lot of you guys. So, you know, if you think of something you'd like to ask later, you can shoot Amber an email, of course. It's got up right there on the screen, amber@whitmedia.co, or you can always shoot me an email at kirsty@travelmassive.com as well. Pretty easy to remember. So again, thanks for joining everyone. And thanks again to Amber for another great webinar. Don't forget to sign up for our next webinar on GDPR if you haven't already, because, you know, I think every single one of you is bound to be affected by that. So I hope to see you all there, and thanks everyone again.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kirsty.
Thanks a lot, Amber. Great webinar.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.